In the heart of Los Angeles at Pershing Square, a disheveled figure with a lined face and steady gaze was on the verge of defying power through mere composure. An ordinary police check escalated into chaos when a respected homeless veteran's creations came under attack and a harsh officer overstepped boundaries. Charlie stood out from the usual transients. For more than 3 decades he had been Chuck Norris, expert in combat arts, secret agent, and battlefield legend famed for quietly neutralizing rebels and slipping away at dawn. When Officer Voss attempted to shove Charlie to the ground, claiming defiance without justification, he was unaware he was trying to crush the spirit of someone shaped by warfare and self-control. Chuck's firm posture and intense stare set off a sequence of events broadcast live to vast audiences, uncovering widespread mistreatment and shattering the facade of dominance. A subtle act of moral examination evolved into a broadcast rebellion. The avenues of LA were forever altered once Chuck Norris ceased blending into the background and began observing in return. Before we continue, share your location with us. And if this tale resonates, be certain to subscribe since I've got a unique surprise lined up for tomorrow. The intense Los Angeles sunlight pounded the fractured concrete of Pershing Square, while Chuck Norris meticulously completed his camouflage. His usually neat beard had become unkempt over several weeks, now refined with discreet stage props. Grime was artfully streaked across his aged features. High-end attire swapped for piled, ragged outfits gathered from second-hand shops. The alteration was striking, extending beyond appearance to a purposeful softening of his authoritative aura. Chuck glimpsed his image in a shop glass. The now Charlie seemed defeated by existence, overlooked by society, precisely as planned. This wasn't aimed at fame. No lenses trailed him. No support lingered close. The idea had built gradually, embedding like a thorn in his thoughts after viewing endless viral clips on online platforms. Homeless ex-soldiers facing harassment, possessions ruined, respect eroded by guardians of order. The most recent one depicting a Marine veteran suffering PTSD, restrained prone merely for resting in a deserted entrance, proved the breaking point. Need to witness it personally, Chuck whispered. His tone rehearsed in a gravelly, altered rhythm, he ambled into central downtown Los Angeles, amid towering glass structures casting deep shades over expanding tent settlements. The disparity was glaring: affluence and destitution divided by scant inches of path. His extensive preparation had honed his ability to gauge individuals, settings, risks. Now those abilities pursued another goal. Chuck positioned himself on a stone bench close to the municipal building, situating where crowds and law enforcement overlapped. His sharp vision monitored watch routes. 2 guards cycled through consistently, a woman with intentional steps and perceptive glance, and a man whose strut held strain like a wound coil. Fresh around here. Chuck raised his head to spot a slender guy with rich tan complexion and sharp gaze observing him. The fellow's attire was faded yet tidy. His items precisely arranged in a battered army pack. A modest painting rested against the barrier next to him, city vistas rendered with impressive talent. Initial outing, Chuck answered cautiously. Carlos, the guy introduced. Folks mostly say sketch. He pointed at his pieces. Clear cause. Charlie, Chuck provided. Sketch evaluated him with the honed scrutiny of one used to judging dangers, armed forces. Chuck dipped his head a bit. Element of his alias, yet factual too. Figured. Gulf War here. Engineering unit. Sketch sat next to him, keeping polite space. Tip for you: remain noticeable, but not overly so. Patrols hit around midday and 3. The lady Lee, she's fair. Her colleague, however. Sketch's look grew somber. Voss enjoys setting precedents. A disturbance broke out 30 yards off. A unkempt individual disputing with a suit over spilled drink. Chuck saw Officer Lee near, her actions serene, calculated. She parted them with subdued command, addressing each with equal courtesy, no shouting, no grip on gear. The issue resolved swiftly. Observe. Sketch inclined approvingly. That's the proper way. Officer Voss showed up shortly after, plainly irritated. Chuck caught their dialogue. Why bother with them? Evacuate and proceed, Voss stated, surveying the plaza with restless eyes. They're humans, Jake. Not issues to remove. Officer Lee's response stayed expert yet resolute. They're occupying spots regular folks require. Check this clutter. Voss booted a vacant container, his words projecting intentionally. Every person merits respect, Lee answered softly. Voss sneered. Keep the charity for those who value it. Chuck examined the exchange attentively, marking how Voss's palm hovered by his gear, how his glance dismissed the unhoused as items instead of beings. Solid judgment, Sketch remarked. Spotting Chuck's intent focus. New arrivals rarely grasp the rhythm that quick. During the afternoon, Chuck absorbed more than he contributed. Sketch recounted tales of ex-service members ending up unsheltered, those who defended borders only to be overlooked domestically. His narrative held no bitterness, merely tired resignation. Toughest aspect isn't climate or starvation, Sketch clarified, refining a minor drawing. It's fading from view. Folks gaze past you, not toward you. Eventually, you question your own existence, Chuck agreed, grasping more profoundly than Sketch realized. Visibility counts more than people think. A youthful lady with expert filming gear stationed nearby, tweaking tools with skilled fluidity. Her gestures assured, her concentration alternating between device and space. That's J Lens, Sketch clarified. Jasmine streams live on urban existence, cop encounters. Built a solid audience. Chuck observed how guards' conduct faintly adjusted upon spotting her lens. Some grew stiffer, others bolder, each conscious of observation. The sun started sinking westward, extending darker hues over the plaza. Officer Voss reappeared, advancing with intent toward spots where sellers had improvised booths. Chuck tracked him keenly, noting the calculated menace in his bearing. Sketch tensed alongside. Here it comes once more. Voss neared Sketch's modest art array, inspecting it with overdone critique. This zone must stay open, municipal rule. Got my license, Sketch responded evenly, grabbing a creased document from his pouch. Fresh rules today. These goods impede walker access. Voss's shoe prodded the border of Sketch's panel. Chuck sensed strain emanating from his recent companion, but saw how meticulously Sketch managed his reaction. Not their debut meeting. Officer, I've kept the mandated gap. 3 feet all around per regs. Sketch's pitch stayed stable, but Chuck sensed the strain involved. Voss's comm device buzzed. He retreated momentarily to reply, shooting Sketch a cautionary stare. Better not force a return. As Voss progressed along the plaza, Sketch breathed out gradually. And that's the reason we fade when possible. Chuck took in all the interactions, the uneven authority, the composed grace in Sketch's reply. His trial was confirming precisely what he dreaded. And the day had barely started. Your creations are impressive, Chuck commented, reviewing an urban view that depicted both shining edifices and the gloom below. You capture dual realities. Sketch agreed. Can't grasp the full scene till you've viewed from each angle. Over in the plaza, Jasmine fine-tuned her lens, her broadcast already documenting the day's pulse. Her narrative streamed organically as she recorded routine existence. Occasionally light-hearted, at times sharp. And we're live from Pershing Square, where the force is asserting itself. Her words drifted. Let's check if today's dealings focus on safeguarding or bothering. Keep watching, audience. The elements were converging: the guards, the observers, the emerging patterns. Chuck immersed further into his persona. A silent watcher integrating into the very environment he'd arrived to examine. The burden of his camouflage now felt less like attire, and more like a portal to an alternate existence, one always parallel to his, divided solely by viewpoint. A cluster of adolescents arrived in the plaza, chuckling boisterously. Chuck saw how Voss promptly directed toward them as Lee pursued her standard route. 2 contrasting methods for identical duties, one pursuing clash, the other linkage. When it occurs, Sketch murmured, focus on Voss. It escalates rapidly. One instant you're unseen, the next you're the lesson. Chuck concurred. I get it. Do you? Sketch's glance locked, probing. No disrespect, but comprehension stems from enduring it. I'm present to absorb. Chuck answered truthfully. Sketch appraised him briefly before resuming his creation. Then stay alert, Charlie. The actual narrative isn't what transpires when they're monitoring one another. It's what unfolds when they assume no eyes are on them. The afternoon glow altered, drawing extended shades over the plaza. Chuck Norris, masked as Charlie, nestled in. Vigilant and enduring. His examination was merely commencing. The midday warmth grew stronger as silhouettes lengthened over Pershing Square. Chuck noted the rise and fall of people. Executives rushing by with diverted stares, visitors gripping possessions firmly near unsheltered folks, guards circling with diverse levels of involvement. He stayed mute, taking it all via the fresh filter of obscurity his camouflage offered. Sketch labored quietly next to him, incorporating precise elements to a road vista. His fingers shifted with unexpected accuracy, forging elegance from the raw surroundings. Sporadic strollers would halt, startled by the caliber of output from one labeled as expendable by culture. Your method, Chuck pointed out, service like accuracy. Sketch's lips bent faintly. Lingering traits. Engineering showed me to spot framework under disorder. He layered a fine shade on a structure. Folks assume being unsheltered strips all abilities, intellect, value. Mistaken. You merely forfeit their esteem. A executive tossed a $5 note into Sketch's mug without pausing or glancing. Chuck monitored the exchange intently. The deliberate evasion of recognition by the donor, the honed endurance in Sketch's soft thanks that went unnoticed. Officer Lee strolled past on her usual circuit, inclining courteously towards Sketch. "Good day, fresh work shaping well. Appreciated, Officer Lee." Sketch's reply was guarded yet sincere. "Any problems now?" "Calm thus far." She eyed Chuck momentarily, a spark of evaluation in her look, but posed no inquiries. "Keep cool. Forecast says 97 degrees. Once she departed, Sketch sighed. "She's among the decent. Recalls identities, recognizes individuals." The comparative tranquility broke when Officer Voss turned the bend, already projecting command with every calculated stride. His scan covered the zone, fixing on Sketch's exhibit with tightened concentration. 2 additional guards trailed him, novices to the area, observing his method with focused interest. "Showing them the basics," Sketch whispered. "We're set to turn into a drill." Voss halted squarely before Sketch's creations, palms on his waist. "Assumed I directed you to vacate this spot. With due respect, officer, I possess adequate space and approvals." Sketch's timbre stayed composed, though Chuck spotted his grasp firm slightly on his tool. "Your arrangement has broadened since dawn." Voss waved broadly despite no alterations. "This qualifies as blockage currently." "Sir, it's identical." Contesting me, Voss's pitch hardened, projecting purposefully to the novice guards. "That'd be an unwise choice." Jasmine had detected the exchange, discreetly shifting her lens direction. Her broadcast discussion buzzed with buzz as spectators detected the mounting clash. "No sir, not contesting." Sketch started methodically stowing his gear. Voss advanced nearer, shoe bumping the rim of a completed panel against the bench. "You types assume these communal areas belong to you. This isn't your private showcase." The panel tilted, then dropped flat onto the ground. A minor split emerged in the border. Chuck detected a glint in Sketch's gaze. A burst of honor clashing with surrender. Decades of honing had instructed Chuck to interpret tiny signals, to detect the exact instant a scenario tilted to strife. This marked that instant. "That item is reserved," Sketch stated softly, bending to recover it. "A buyer collects it today," Voss mocked. "Certainly it is." He pivoted to the novices. "Observe how they forever spin a tale. Always a rationale why guidelines skip them." As Sketch extended for the panel, Voss adjusted his stance, his shoe pressing the frame's edge. Not sufficient to ruin it entirely, but adequate to inflict harm, intentional. "Watch your step," Voss uttered, tone laced with false worry. "Hate to harm your goods." Chuck acted then, his shift smooth amid his mask. He crouched, aiding Sketch in gathering his dispersed materials. "Allow me to assist." Voss's focus whipped to Chuck, gaze constricting at this fresh entrant. "Stand aside. This isn't your matter." "It's merely supporting a comrade vet," Chuck responded, his pitch balanced and polite despite the resolve underneath. "No one sought your involvement." Voss sneered, leveraging stature and rank to daunt. "Identification. Not carrying one right now," Chuck stated factually. "Handy." Voss jeered. "Another phantom drifting by." "Your name?" "Charlie." "Charlie what?" "Simply Charlie for now." Jasmine had advanced, her lens now recording the exchange with exact detail. Her words offered gentle narrative to her spectators. Observing Officer Voss engage with 2 unhoused persons by the Civic Center. One seems a former service artist who often shows here. Voss spotted the lens and aligned, his manner turning faintly more official yet oddly fiercer. "Performing for viewers now. Sir, please retreat from this exchange." He spoke to Chuck with amplified formality. "This person has received repeated notices on correct licensing. I hold all necessary licenses." Sketch inserted, displaying the forms. Voss disregarded him, attention fixed on Chuck. When a guard issues a valid directive, obedience isn't elective. Chuck sustained visual contact, neither provoking nor yielding. "I comprehend. I'm only aiding in stowing these so we can empty the space as asked." "Detect that demeanor." Voss addressed the novice guards. "Right there. Always sufficient pushback to spark an issue without veering into outright rebellion." Lee creased her brow a tad. They looked to be obeying. Officer Voss appears as the key term. Voss rebutted. You're overly lenient with them, Lee. That's why they test limits. The novices fidgeted awkwardly, eyeing between the pair of guards, unsure which style to emulate. Jasmine's broadcast tally climbed as additional spectators tuned in, detecting unfolding tension. Strain building between guards on handling unsheltered persons. Officer Lee working to calm while Officer Voss seems to deliberately heighten the matter. Voss wheeled abruptly toward her. Keep distance with that lens unless you aim to join this exchange. Public servant, Jasmine answered steadily. Constitutional protection allows filming law enforcement from a sensible range, which I'm upholding. Voss's mouth clenched. Outplayed on several levels, he refocused on Chuck with fresh intensity. Clear your pockets. Recounting and crafting this account required considerable effort. So, if you're liking it, join our channel. It helps immensely. Now resuming the account. Might I inquire why? Chuck's query wasn't rebellious, just straightforward. Probable cause for which offense? The inquiry lingered, basic yet crushing in its precision. Chuck's manner stayed courteous, his pose non-aggressive. Still, the query challenged the core of Voss's command. Voss advanced nearer, pitch dropping. Believe lacking shelter grants you extra privileges. Think I miss what you're up to? I'm not up to anything beyond assisting my companion in packing his lawfully approved creations, Chuck answered steadily. See it once more, Voss told the novices. That's covert pushback. They prod till you retort, then act the prey for recordings. He faced Chuck. Rise, palms visible. Chuck followed fluidly, actions intentional and unmenacing. Even mask. His bearing held a balanced essence from years of fighting regimen. Hard to wholly mask. Officer Lee advanced. Jake, this isn't required. They're following the first directive. They're impeding and uncooperative. Voss refuted. And this guy, he indicated Chuck, lacks papers and is meddling in official matters. The novices observed closely, seeing a lesson in street authority plays. One appeared uneasy, the other copied Voss's severe look. Palms on the barrier. Voss commanded Chuck, legs apart. Jasmine's audience figures jump. Her pitch stayed firm as she described. Guard now advancing to frisk a person who seems to have merely aided another unhoused individual in stowing items. Sketch lingered close, palms somewhat lifted, worry carved on his traits. Officer, he was only assisting me. No call for this. Quiet unless you wish to accompany him, Voss barked. Chuck caught Sketch's glance briefly, a wordless comfort exchanged. Then he pivoted to the barrier as directed, palms flat on the plane. I'm obeying, officer, Chuck declared plainly for the lens's sake. No offense committed and no approval for frisks, though I recognize you're continuing. Voss's face shadowed at the serene legal awareness in Chuck's words. Another sign that Charlie wasn't the basic drifter he portrayed. Wise guy, Voss grumbled, starting a frisk with excess vigor. See how clever you seem after an evening detained for loitering and interference. Officer Lee's unease was evident now. Officer Voss, I doubt this fits standards for those accusations. Doubting my call, Lee. Voss avoided her gaze, persisting with searching Chuck's compartments. I'm proposing balanced reaction, she answered prudently. The standoff had attracted a modest group. Devices emerged, capturing from various views. Jasmine's broadcast remarks raced as spectators responded to the developing view. Voss sensed the rising examination and intensified, clutching Chuck's limb with surplus strength as he finished the frisk. Empty compartments. Convenient, like you anticipated this exchange. Chuck stayed mute, his calm not from dread, but from absolute mastery. He'd confronted tyrants and extremists with identical unyielding poise. He now aimed at Officer Voss, a figure who confused influence for command, mixing esteem with terror. Retreat from the barrier, Voss directed. Turn toward me. Chuck rotated gradually, keeping steady visual lock. His bearing held no menace. Yet an element in his steadfast stare caused Voss to pause briefly. The guard rallied fast, narrowing the gap again. Believe you're wiser than me. Think I ignore when someone's toying? No toying, officer, Chuck answered. Merely using my privileges as a resident. Residents carry papers, Voss rebutted. Residents have residences. You're a loiterer blocking fairness. Chuck's reply was calculated. Lacking shelter doesn't reduce citizenship. The plain fact struck with surprising force. Various bystanders inclined in accord. The uneasy novice adjusted stance, glancing at Officer Lee, who stood with compressed mouth and worried gaze. Voss felt narrative command fading. The lens, the expanding group, the serene defiance all eroded the command he yearned to display. To your knees, he commanded suddenly. Chuck stayed upright. I've followed all valid directives, officer. I don't view that demand as essential or fitting. To your knees immediately. Voss's pitch escalated sharply, palm shifting to his gear. Jasmine's description turned pressing. Officer Voss now directing unhoused man to kneel on concrete despite absent danger or defiance. Officer Lee progressed. Officer Voss, this has progressed too far. But Voss was too invested to withdraw. In a swift action, he pushed Chuck rearward, obviously expecting a trip or tumble. Chuck took the thrust with little shift, his equilibrium intact. Years of combat practice had ingrained ideal balance instinctively, even seeming surprised. Voss's gaze expanded a touch at the unforeseen steadiness. An aspect crossed his features, doubt yielding to resolve. He grabbed for Chuck's limb, planning to enforce obedience via bodily dominance. The group inhaled, devices elevated further. Jasmine's broadcast tally surged with fresh spectators. And at that point, his grasp extended to overpower instead of defend. Chuck Norris chose not to battle, not to oppose, but to disclose. The midday glow illuminated his features as he aligned a bit, permitting sufficient of his authentic essence to surface through the mask. A change so delicate yet so deep that nearest observers felt the shift prior to comprehending it. The ignition had occurred. What ensued was unavoidable. A judgment rooted not in aggression, but in reality long hidden, emerging at last into view. The strain in Pershing Square solidified into an instant poised on a razor's brink. Officer Voss's clasp seized Chuck's limb with overdone power, set on proving superiority for his viewers of novices and spectators. The assembly had enlarged, pulled by the allure of dispute, devices hoisted to record the forthcoming. On your knees, Voss reiterated, pitch keen with exasperation as Chuck stayed vertical despite the hold on his limb. Officer Lee drew nearer, concern clear in her stance. Jake, back off. This is utterly unneeded. Keep out, Lee. Voss retorted without eyeing her. This is why they lack regard for rank. Too many guards scared to claim control. Chuck remained immobile, neither countering nor yielding to the invalid command. His gaze serene, centered, fearless, fixed on Voss's growingly restless features. When he eventually voiced, his pitch bore a soft command that appeared to quiet the surrounding atmosphere. Officer, I realize you're performing your role, but we recognize this isn't about communal security any longer. An element in his manner gauged assurance. The total lack of terror prompted a spark of bewilderment across Voss's features. In his background, unhoused folks reacted with yielding or hostility. This balanced serenity was unanticipated, confusing. Jasmine had placed herself ideally, her lens seizing every subtlety of the clash. Her broadcast had boomed, thousands viewing live as she supplied background with skilled accuracy. For newcomers, we're seeing what looks like a worsening scenario between LAPD guard Jacob Voss and two unhoused persons by the Civic Center. The guard has performed a frisk and is now trying to compel one man to kneel despite no apparent risk or violation. One novice guard shuffled restlessly, sharing a look with his peer. This wasn't the drill they'd foreseen, trailing Voss on watch. Voss sensed dominance escaping more from his hold. Every second Chuck stayed vertical weakened his rank before his juniors, the assembly, and now countless unseen observers. He opted critically heighten. With abrupt motion he tried to compel Chuck down via a trained hold technique. You're opposing detention. What transpired next flowed so seamlessly that afterward, as spectators dissected the recording image by image, discussion would storm on if Chuck had shifted whatsoever. Voss's hold merely missed its aimed result. Where others would have been driven down by the advantage, Chuck stayed solid, absorbing the force without visible strain. The guard's drive threw him mildly off-center. He steadied swiftly, features reddening with a perilous mix of shame and fury. To the ground now, Voss yelled, grabbing for his stun device with his open hand. Officer Lee advanced resolutely. Officer Voss, cease at once. He's opposing. Voss's pitch gained a frantic tone. I detect no opposition. Lee opposed staunchly. Only unwarranted heightening. Sketch had retreated, palms evident, gaze broad with incredulity at the developing scene. He wasn't at fault, dude. We were merely stowing. The assembly had grown bigger, their whispers rising to a worried hum. Multiple voices protested Voss's moves. This is cop abuse. He's not opposing. What's the violation? Jasmine pursued her firm description, her lens steadfast. Guard now grasping for his stun tool despite the person displaying no hostility or opposition. His colleague seems trying to calm. Voss's concentration narrowed to a channel fixed on Chuck, side awareness dimming as his expert manner crumbled beneath the load of questioned rank. With a rapid, forceful gesture, he thrust Chuck firmly toward the barrier. This instant Chuck permitted the motion, but kept his footing with the same eerie steadiness. The managed reply only amplified Voss's irritation. Final alert, to the ground or I'll activate my stun. A silence descended on the assembly. Devices rose taller. Jasmine's broadcast tally passed 20,000 observers. Officer Lee positioned squarely between them, her rear to Chuck. Officer Voss, you must cease now. That's a command. You don't command me. Voss growled, though he wavered at her outright involvement. In fact, she does. Emerged a fresh voice, commanding and crisp. Sergeant Raymond Foster navigated through the group, his seasoned gaze absorbing the scene with honed proficiency. Foster was a 2-decade pro, his graying hair and aged features evidence of years patrolling. He proceeded with the assured rank of one who didn't require validation to recognize his influence. Sergeant. Voss aligned instantly, his manner turning to formal respect. I was merely managing a non-compliant transient who I can perceive precisely what you're managing. Foster interrupted, view sweeping from the collected assembly to the various capturing tools to Chuck's still serene manner. And I can perceive how badly you're managing it. Foster pivoted to Chuck, his evaluation expert yet equitable. Sir, you okay? Chuck inclined once. I'm good, Sergeant. Care to explain how this began? I was aiding my companion in stowing his creations after your guard told him to vacate the spot. Officer Voss objected to my help. Foster's gaze tightened a tad at the clear reply. Another hint this unhoused man wasn't entirely as he seemed. An identification. Not with me currently, Chuck answered truthfully. Foster agreed, digesting. Officer Lee, your view. Lee advanced. These persons were following the starting directive to vacate. Officer Voss heightened the matter without need. The frisk and tried hold lacked any valid ground I could spot. Foster took this in, his look revealing nil. Voss, guide the novices and resume circuit on the west. I'll manage this. But Sergeant, that wasn't optional, officer. Foster's pitch allowed no debate. Voss paused, then inclined rigidly. Yes, sir. He shot a last scowl at Chuck before directing the novice guards off, his form stiff with disgrace. The assembly started scattering a bit as the direct risk of clash faded. Jasmine, though, maintained her lens on the scene, gut sensing the tale wasn't concluded. Sergeant Foster has entered and calmed the direct clash. Officer Voss has been instructed to depart the zone. Foster refocused on Chuck, his practiced gaze conducting a fuller review. You don't seem like someone randomly in the incorrect spot at the wrong moment. Chuck maintained his stare firmly. Occasionally the incorrect spot is precisely where you must be, Sergeant. Something in those terms, or how they were conveyed, prompted Foster to examine closer at the figure ahead. His gaze sharpened, attention honing as he started peering beyond the filth. The garb, the whiskers. Who are you actually? Foster inquired softly. The instant had come. Chuck had collected all the proof required. Had felt directly what innumerable overlooked residents suffered routinely. The trial was done. With intentional gestures, Chuck lifted and doffed the hat concealing his locks. He detached the staged parts of his whiskers, uncovering the known features below the meticulous mask. The shift wasn't flashy or dramatic. No hero to alter ego switch. But a calm surfacing of fact that had lingered throughout, simply obscured under strata of deliberate trickery. Sergeant Foster's gaze broadened in astonished identification. You're Chuck Norris, he stated plainly. Yes, a shared inhale spread among those near enough to see the disclosure. Devices elevated further. Voices ascended in skepticism and thrill. Oh wow. It's him for real. Chuck Norris. Incredible. Jasmine's expert calm fractured briefly, her description stumbling. Hold on, audience. It seems, I can't accept I'm stating this, but the unhoused man Officer Voss tried to hold seems to be Chuck Norris. Her broadcast boomed, remarks pouring so fast they turned illegible. Observer counts multiplied, then tripled as folks distributed the feed across sites. Sketch froze, tool still gripped, lips parted as he absorbed that Charlie had been Chuck Norris throughout. Officer Lee's expert manner yielded to brief astonishment before she swiftly regained, grasping the seriousness of the occurrence and its implications for the force. Foster regained poise first, decades of background enabling quick adaptation. Mr. Norris, he uttered cautiously. I think we ought to pursue this dialogue in a less open setting. Chuck declined. With deference, Sergeant. Secrecy enables these violations to persist. The issue isn't solely today's event to me. It's the everyday occurrence for those lacking my identity or appearance. Those whose abuse remains undocumented and unaddressed. His pitch projected clearly, tuned to reach nearby and seized by the many capturing tools not showy or staged, but calculated and purposeful. A man who grasped precisely what his terms would signify and the impact they'd bear. I've passed the last week surviving these paths. I've seen kindness from certain guards, he inclined toward Lee, and disdain from others. I've felt what it entails to vanish, to have your personhood doubted purely on looks and situation. The assembly had quieted, clinging to each term. Jasmine's lens stayed firm, recording what was swiftly turning one of the most impactful incidents in recent LAPD records. I didn't undertake this for hype, or to shame your force, Chuck proceeded, speaking to Foster directly, but addressing the broader viewers he knew observed. I did it since occasionally the sole path to genuinely grasp unfairness is to endure it directly. Foster's look stayed expert, but the tension in his cheek showed his recognition of the managerial upheaval this would spark. Mr. Norris, I value your worries and guarantee they'll be handled via appropriate paths, but presently I'd prefer to appropriate paths have faltered. Chuck cut in mildly yet resolutely. That's my presence here. He rotated a touch, recognizing the larger crowd, both on-site and digital. Today's event wasn't rare or exceptional. It's the routine truth for thousands of ex-soldiers, those with mental challenges, and people who've hit rough patches. The sole variance is I can shed my mask and depart. They cannot. Sketch advanced, locating his voice. You were evaluating them, evaluating us. Chuck faced him, true esteem in his looks. I was gaining from you, from all here who confront these trials with honor. Despite being viewed as subhuman, the unvarnished sincerity in his terms echoed through the plaza. Even initial spectacle seekers hushed. Spotting the weight of the instant, Foster, realizing the matter had advanced past standard crisis management, adjusted his tactic. What precisely do you seek, Mr. Norris? Chuck's answer was prompt and distinct. Responsibility, not merely for today, but structural shifts in how your guards handle those without dwellings or standing. Instruction stressing honor and calming over supremacy and restraint. He motioned toward Officer Lee. Guards like Lee prove that capable enforcement doesn't demand threat. It demands compassion. Lee aligned a bit at the recognition, her look a blend of career satisfaction and individual justification. Foster inclined gradually, the governmental and operational ramifications unfolding fast in his thoughts. I can't vow instant shifts, but I can vow this event will get due focus. It already has, Chuck answered, eyeing Jasmine's lens and the scores of devices still capturing. The query is what ensues. The midday sun drew extended shades over Pershing Square as the instant teetered between clash and evolution. Chuck Norris stood exposed yet essentially unaltered, the identical balanced essence he'd upheld, now merely apparent to everyone. The mask had dropped, but the fact it exposed lingered, suspended in the atmosphere like dust particles lit by the angled rays, impossible to dismiss and impossible to erase. Word of Chuck Norris's true self propagated through Pershing Square like blaze, expanding outward via digital channels at electronic pace. Within moments, extra press teams started showing, pulled by the exploding momentum of Jasmine's broadcast. The throngs increased, devices aloft, a thicket of electronic gazes seizing each segment of the developing drama. Sergeant Foster upheld his expert calm amid the mayhem forming around him. 2 decades in service had taught him to plan multiple steps forward, particularly in high-exposure scenarios. This was fast becoming the most exposed event of his tenure. Mr. Norris, Foster stated, pitch intentionally balanced. I recommend we carry on this talk at headquarters where we can correctly log your issues. Chuck declined mildly. With deference, Sergeant. I've devoted a week logging those issues directly. What's required now isn't further secluded discussion. It's open responsibility. Foster's cheek tensed nearly unnoticeably. I grasp your stance, but there are standard procedures. The standard procedures let down Carlos here. Chuck motioned toward Sketch and multitudes similar. That's my stance today. Sketch had stayed close, still digesting the exposure of Chuck's actual self. His look cycled between doubt, insight, and nearing validation. You truly existed out here the whole week? Sketch queried, still working to match the reserved Charlie he'd connected with to the icon now before him. Chuck agreed. 7 days, varied spots downtown. No crew, no reserves, no favors. He locked eyes with Sketch straight. What I faced was a sliver of your daily endurance, but sufficient to comprehend. Officer Lee had placed herself a tad separate from Foster, her expert manner whole, despite the unusual context. Her view alternated between Chuck, the assembling throng, and the retreating shape of Officer Voss, who'd halted at the plaza's rims, observing the scene with stiff form and clear strain. Jasmine had kept her spot, her broadcast now hitting hundreds of thousands as outlets commenced adopting and spreading the transmission. Her description had become bolder as the story's scale clarified. "We're experiencing a remarkable instant here in central Los Angeles," she described. Film actor and fighting arts icon Chuck Norris has just disclosed he's been incognito as an unhoused individual for the prior week, evidently assessing how LAPD guards manage the city's most at-risk residents. The clash prompting this exposure included Officer Jacob Voss trying to hold Norris without reason, advancing to warnings of stun use. Foster eyed her lens with scarcely hidden worry. The account was shaping live outside his influence. He refocused on Chuck, softening his pitch a bit. "Norris, I honor what you're aiming to achieve, but this method places the Force in a tough spot." "The Force positioned itself here," Chuck answered calmly. "I'm merely rendering it apparent." Foster pondered this, then chose strategically. "Would you share exactly what transpired?" "I seek to grasp the complete background." Chuck agreed. "Jasmine holds it all on recording." Foster pivoted toward Jasmine, who'd neared, lens still transmitting. "Mom, I'd like to examine your recording." "Certainly, Sergeant," Jasmine responded without dropping her lens. "I can pull the prior transmission here." She fetched another device, swiftly accessing the stored clip while persisting to record with her main lens. The compact cluster assembled around the display. Foster, Chuck, Lee, and Sketch, forming an odd scene of rank and exclusion, briefly united in scrutiny of fact. The clip ran with merciless sharpness, Voss's unprompted heightening, his purposeful threat, the unneeded vigor, Chuck's serene obedience amid the guards' mounting hostility. Foster viewed with career focus, his look betraying zero. When the replay concluded, he gazed up at Chuck with fresh insight. "This isn't what enforcement ought to represent," he uttered at last, pitch soft but resolute. "No," Chuck concurred, "it isn't." Foster aligned. Choice settled. "Officer Lee, your view of the matter matches what I've observed." "Yes, Sergeant," Lee answered promptly. Officer Voss heightened without cause. "No lawful foundation for the frisk or attempted hold that I discerned." Foster inclined once, then pivoted to tackle the broader scenario. His pitch carried naturally, a figure used to leadership. "Mr. Norris, I'd like to offer an official regret from the Force for your handling today. What you faced didn't align with our instruction or principles." The throng whispered, startled by the sergeant's forthrightness. Jasmine closed in a touch, seizing the instant of responsibility with ideal composition. Foster proceeded. "I'll launch a formal examination of this event right away. Officer Voss will be assigned desk duty awaiting that examination." He halted, then appended with intentional stress. "And I'd like to directly review any additional events you noted during your street time." Chuck appraised Foster briefly, measuring his genuineness. "Appreciate it, Sergeant." "That's an opening." "Merely an opening," Foster admitted, "but a key one." The dialogue was halted as a polished Force vehicle arrived at the plaza's border. The police head stepped out, joined by the Force's media liaison, both evidently called by the swiftly booming account. Foster tensed subtly. "Appears this escalated higher." As the head neared, Foster advanced to update him in muted words. The head's look cycled from worry to skepticism to stern acceptance as he took in the exceptional scenario developing in his area. Chuck pivoted to Sketch in this brief pause. "I owe you clarity," he uttered, softly. Sketch declined. "You owe nothing. This you're doing, it's beyond what any expected, particularly from your level." "Your accounts made it tangible for me," Chuck answered. "What you revealed about your duty, about vanishing, counted." Sketch's aged features eased a bit. "Suppose I had a notable listener unknowingly." "We all did." Chuck inclined toward the other unhoused folks who'd assembled at the edges, observing with guarded optimism as authority patterns they'd known forever abruptly changed. "All have observed this setup's function. The difference today is someone observed back." The police head neared, palm outstretched. "Mr. Norris, Chief Williams. I hear there's been a regrettable event with a guard." "Beyond regrettable," Chuck answered, taking the grip revealing. The chief inclined, keenly aware of the lenses seizing each term. I'd like to confirm this issue will get my direct focus. The conduct you faced doesn't mirror our force's principles or preparation. Chuck locked his stare directly. With deference, chiefs. When conduct repeats steadily by various guards in diverse scenarios, it surely mirrors your force's principles no matter the official declaration. The chief upheld his expert manner despite the open critique. That's valid feedback, and exactly why I'd treasure your thoughts on tackling these matters broadly. I'd gladly provide those thoughts, Chuck answered. But initially, I'd prefer hearing from those enduring this truth daily. He motioned to Sketch and the other unhoused observers. Their knowledge on guard dealings far surpasses mine. The chief paused, briefly unsettled by the redirection. His view scanned the collected unhoused watchers, perhaps genuinely noticing them first. Naturally, that'd be useful feedback. Jasmine's lens seized the delicate power change, the brief doubt in the chief's bearing. The composed honor in Sketch's aligned shoulders as he realized his endured knowledge was being valued as skill, not flaw. Officer Lee advanced. Chief, if allowed, I've covered this zone for 3 years. I've built ties with numerous unhoused community folks. I'd gladly aid in arranging those talks. The chief inclined, thankful for the career support. Thanks, Officer Lee. That assist. Over the plaza, Officer Voss observed the scene with mounting awareness of the unfolding. His features darkened seeing the police head engaging the same folks Voss had tried to threaten moments prior. The professional consequences were turning clear. Chuck spotted Voss's far form and the stiff animosity in his bearing. Your guard is still observing, he uttered softly to Foster. Could be worth verifying him. Foster traced Chuck's view and inclined. Lee, maintain order here. Back soon. He advanced deliberately toward Voss, cutting him off before exit. The chief refocused on Chuck. Mr. Norris, I'd propose relocating this talk to a better venue. My workspace, maybe? We can review your notes and worries thoroughly. Chuck weighed the proposal, conscious of its twofold essence, both sincere effort at involvement and tactical shift to remove the talk from open view. He eyed Jasmine's ongoing lens, then the assembled unhoused folks who seldom accessed such influence. I value the offer, Chief, he answered, but I believe this talk must occur here where it originated. Openness counts, particularly when faith is damaged. The chief absorbed this, acknowledging both the practical hurdle and symbolic value. After brief thought, he inclined. Reasonable. What do you suggest? A group discussion right in this plaza tomorrow dawn. Chuck motioned to the unhoused folks nearby with force reps and local residents who truly dwell on these paths. Balanced input, open session. The chief wavered. Assessing political dangers versus gains. Before reply, Jasmine interjected. I'd gladly broadcast that talk, Chief. Raw from start to end. Her pitch expert, but the clever move evident, complicating the force's refusal of open responsibility. The chief offered a strained grin. That's a notable idea. He refocused on Chuck. May I inquire what you aim to achieve with this tactic, Mr. Norris? Chuck's reply was direct and clear. Genuine shift needs 3 elements: exposure, responsibility, and persistence. Today, we've gained exposure. Tomorrow's talk would set responsibility. What follows will show if there's true persistence or mere crisis handling. The straightforwardness of the response and its underlying test lingered between them. The chief knew he navigated unknown ground where typical authority patterns had been basically changed by Chuck's essence and the multiplying electronic observers. After a calculated break, the chief inclined. 10 a.m. tomorrow, we'll have suitable force reps here. Thanks, Chuck answered plainly. Over the plaza, Foster had met Voss and was conversing in low, fervent words. The junior guard's bearing showed resistance at first, then gradually wilted as his position's truth clarified. Foster extended his palm, and after brief opposition, Voss yielded his emblem and duty arm. The emblematic gravity of the instant escaped no watcher. Jasmine recorded the trade from afar, her description balanced but directed. Seems Officer Voss is being suspended at minimum briefly. After his clash with Chuck Norris. As Foster returned with Voss's yielded objects, the chief spoke to him. Sergeant, I require a full examination of this guard's history. Every public grievance, every force application, all cam clips from last half year. Yes, sir, Foster answered. I'll oversee personally. The chief refocused on Chuck. Mr. Norris, anything else for immediate attention? Chuck pondered the query meticulously. One item. He pivoted to Sketch. whose creations stayed strewn where fallen during Voss's threat. Carlos is a Gulf War ex-soldier and skilled creator. His output merits presentation with honor, not wrecked as authority display. The basic declaration redirecting focus to the initial sufferer over himself altered the gathering's emotional tone. Various spectators shifted to aid in retrieving Sketch's creations, managing the items with fresh esteem. The chief spotted the instant for its essence, a cue of the personal toll behind guideline debates and image challenges. He inclined toward Sketch. "Thanks for your duty, sir, to nation and locality via your creations." Sketch aligned a bit at the notice, unaccustomed to such from leaders. "Appreciate it, sir." As the spontaneous assembly started breaking, Chuck retreated from lenses and leaders, advancing to assist Sketch arrange his reclaimed creations. The gesture minor, but deliberate, a cue his dedication wasn't to the show, but to the folks who'd stay on these paths long post-media fade. Jasmine neared warily, lens rolling, but her own interest clear. "Mr. Norris, care to reveal what drove this trial?" Chuck looked up from kneeling by Sketch's works. His answer wasn't practiced or staged, just truthful. "At times you must enter another's truth to really grasp it. I sought to feel what thousands of ex-soldiers and at-risk residents encounter daily without fame or means as shield." "And your findings?" Jasmine urged. Chuck weighed the query, his view scanning the plaza where existence persisted. Executives hastening by, visitors snapping images, watch vehicles looping with fresh caution. "I discovered that obscurity is the harshest penalty we impose on folks," he uttered at last. "And that a culture's true gauge isn't its handling of famed members, but those simplest to overlook." The terms suspended in the midday air, basic yet deep. Jasmine inclined, spotting the strength of the instant she'd seized. Not merely a star ploy or guard clash, but a core test to how a culture perceives itself and its most at risk. As the sun initiated its drop toward the ocean, drawing extended shades over Pershing Square, Chuck Norris lingered by Sketch, aiding in restoring balance to the existence his trial had briefly upset. The lenses persisted capturing, seizing not only the striking exposure or authority clash, but these softer instants of true bond, the genuine judgment stemming not from open spectacle, but from private acknowledgement of common personhood. Morning light emerged over Los Angeles with rare sharpness, the early rays rendering the city in clear outlines. Crystal spires shining against far hills, roads gradually crowding with dawn travelers, and at the margins the improvised shelters of those the metropolis preferred to ignore. Chuck Norris traversed the stirring streets with intent, his mask discarded, but his aura purposefully subdued. Denim basic colored top, aged footwear, no followers, no guards, no lenses tracking his route, just a figure with a goal and a sack over his arm. He arrived at Sketch's typical location near Pershing Square's east side, well pre-scheduled time for the open session. The ex-soldier creator was present, arranging his exhibit with habitual skill, each action bearing the ingrained recall of a pattern done innumerable times. "Hello," Chuck welcomed him softly. Sketch raised view, surprise flashing short before yielding to wary grin. "Assumed you'd advanced to another task already." "Not fully done with this," Chuck answered, placing his sack. "How you managing?" Sketch lifted shoulders, the motion holding layers. "Been a curious day, devices ringing nonstop. Reporters, broadcast folks, online types. Abruptly all want the unhoused guy who connected with Chuck Norris. Regret that," Chuck uttered. True worry in his manner. "No need," Sketch dismissed. "First occasion in ages folks are truly noticing me. Actually noticing." He pointed to his works. "Moved 3 yesterday afternoon at full cost." "No bargaining," Chuck grinned. "They merit every cent." "Perhaps," Sketch conceded. "But yesterday marked first when purchasers appeared to accept that." He halted, reviewing Chuck with new interest. "You truly are him, right? Wasn't certain if I imagined it all post your exit." "I'm merely a guy who spotted wrong and sought better grasp," Chuck answered plainly. "A guy with specific talents and sway," Sketch countered with a aware glance. "On that note, cops differ this morning." Courteous, eye contact, addressing sir and ma'am over hey. "Shift often begins with recognition," Chuck noted. "Query as if it endures past the focus." They labored together in easy quiet a while, positioning art for best display. The plaza slowly animated around, vendors prepping stands, workers crossing to jobs, and known unhoused faces surfacing from nightly refuges. Close, municipal staff assembled temp stage and audio for coming session. Guard presence obvious, but markedly reserved, officers holding polite gap. Their style expert over menacing. They're anxious. Sketch remarked, inclining to force officials conferring by stage. Spot when leaders anxious added shine on emblems. Excess device checks. Chuck traced his view. Positive. Responsibility ought to unsettle. As morning progressed, press arrived, cruise setting. Journalists doing pieces with swelling crowd behind. Jasmine placing strategically for ongoing broadcast now hitting millions. The plaza's vibe was charged, expectation mounting each minute. Chuck glanced time. Must handle something per start. You manage here. Sketch agreed. Managed for years. Chuck shouldered sack and advanced deliberately to plaza's distant corner, where modest unhoused camp had set semi-fixed spot. He'd spent 2 evenings there undercover, hearing accounts, noting names, grasping lives. Residents knew him instantly. Reactions blending doubt and tentative greet. Elder lady named Margaret, who'd shared cover with him on sudden chill night, neared first. So, it was you, she uttered, awe in her wary gaze, thought mind slipping seeing news. Chuck smiled kindly. It was me, Margaret, and I recall your generosity. Didn't do special, she downplayed. Just decent behavior. That's what rendered it special, Chuck answered. He placed sack and opened, showing organized packs inside. Brought practicals, not aid. He started handing sturdy sleep sacks, tough carriers with sealed file holders, paid mobiles with year plan, vouchers to area eateries and stores, and contacts for ex-soldier aid, residents' help, legal support. This isn't fix, he clarified, distributing. Just aids to maneuver flawed setup while mending it. Recipients took gifts with honor, many too moved for words. No stage thanks, no image chance. Just people affirming each other's value and wants. As Chuck ended handing, he drew last item from sack, base fat envelope with hefty funds and pen note. This to Margaret. For crisis, he clarified softly. Shared when true need. No conditions, no critique. Margaret took envelope with grave duty. Will apply right, my promise. No, you will, Chuck answered. Why with you? As he turned to exit, Margaret brushed his arm lightly. What you did, displaying world their treatment, it counts. Even sans quick change. Counts that one with your platform viewed us as worth defending. Chuck agreed, feeling briefly constrict throat. You always worth defending. I aided visibilities. He returned to Sketch's exhibit, finding Officer Lee arrived early, casual garb, but clear from assured stance and vigilant gaze. She reviewed one Sketch's works with true admiration. Real skill here, she stated as Chuck neared. Way you seize light on structures like they're alive. 'Cause they are, Sketch answered. City pulses. Most don't pause to see. Lee inclined reflectively, then spotted Chuck's arrival. Mr. Norris. Morning, Officer Lee. Chuck noted, or Ms. Lee today. Marissa, please, she provided. Here somewhat unofficial. Sergeant Foster requested I aid guide today's talk, especially with community who hesitate direct with uniformed. Wise tactic, Chuck noted. Linking needs meeting folks where secure. Marissa appraised him with career interest. May I pose direct? Sure, why this way? Advocacy orgs, formal paths, press links, any would have embraced your role sans street living. Fair query, sans judgment. Chuck weighed reply carefully. Life taught true grasp can't distant, he answered. Docs numbers indirect tails value but buffer reality in view. Needed remove buffer. Achieved true grasp. Chuck declined mildly, not fully no. Weak no match years systemic ignore and deperson. But gave perspective speak authentic over assume. Marissa inclined, content and look. Better reply than anticipated, truth often, Chuck answered, small smile. Talk halted as officials directed to gather spot. Session start 30 min, crowd swelled much. Press. Locals, curious, notable unhoused rarely and such. Jasmine neared, lens active, but side casual. Mr. Norris, stream at half mel waiters. Per start comment, Chuck declined. Let session self speak. Okay, she conceded. Though no yesterday exposure sparked like in other towns. Ex-soldiers Portland, Chicago, Atlanta plan doc cop unhoused deals. Hashtag Chuck Norris test trending. Info pause Chuck. Efforts evolve own once started sometimes unexpected not intent. Sparks rare pick effect Jasmine noted insight. Worth, focus accountability via doc not clash. Chuck agreed eased but thoughtful. Doc counts but compassion too. As approach session area Chuck spotted known figure rigid at edge. Officer Voss civilian watching with blank look. Despite desk, chose attend. Sergeant Foster beside Chuck, tracing gaze. Voss at office dawn, he clarified softly. Sought observe permit. Said need grasp all views. Notable, Chuck neutral. Believe second shots, Foster uttered not third fourth. Record patterns concern addressing. But growth needs face errors direct. Chuck reviewed Vosfar with seasoned gaze. Hardest self-honest face. True, Foster concurred. On face reality, Chief soon start. Requested you platform. Chuck declined. Not me. Participate here community. Foster small smile thought so. He displeased. Lead sometimes uneasy. Chuck simple. Session began formal intros prepared words from Chief various officials. Tone expected balanced admit improve areas, commit review methods, vow boost instruction. Political terms acknowledge sans admit fault. Dynamic changed sharp when community spoke. Sketch described daily cop deals routine to person pick and force crime assume. Others shared like testimonies raw unfiltered politics. Margaret spoke baton wake 3 a.m. tent, forced move nowhere. Young described med separate cleanup. 60s vet recounted job told by guard missed prosthetic. Through testimonies, Chuck silent. Let voices bear deserve weights. When called speak, stood but stayed community not platform. Came listen learn. He started simple. Found fail not policy but view. When class fellow humans problems manage not citizens serve. Compromise justice base claim uphold. Words carried hushed plaza. Balanced but echo conviction. Faced opponents rings film sets decades. But true courage not choreograph clash. In daily resilience systemic indifferent. People beside demonstrate courage day. Survive not physical hard, but deeper wound render invisible own community. Chuck motion sketch Margaret. Gathered unhoused risk target speak truth. What next counts more yesterday. This talk footnote, brief disrupt before usual. Or start fun change see serve vulnerable. He turned chief assembled officials. Choice yours now all watch decide. Words suspended challenge invite mix. Chief stepped visibly grapple moment political moral. Mr. Norris correct. He conceded last. Must more PR. He turned officers. Immediate established civilian watch all unhoused ops majority rep lived experience. Murmur crowd surprise cautious opt healthy doubt. Also chief proceeded officer Lee head new instruct restructure approach vulnerable. Sergeant Foster lead full review complaints officer unhoused interacts past 3 years. Commitments specific. Measure hard or quiet abandoned post spot. Chuck inclined slight, recognize moment sig while understand promise need vigilant follow. As session continued Chuck quiet withdraw, smooth gather edge, purpose done, not direct clash, but create space long silence voices heard, sketch notice depart follow, leave pre-end. Chuck small smile, my role done. Now matters after gone, what next Chuck Norris sketch query, back Hollywood. Another task. First, keep promise, Chuck answered, pocket extract small card. Private line not emerge updates. Want no develop change not. Sketch took card careful. Serious this not stunt nevermore Chuck confirm. This plaza community matters. What here matters. Sketch inclined slow. I'll inform. Real story not release. Appreciate Chuck extend hench grass firm care self Carlos. You too Charlie. Sketch answer no smile. As Chuck moved from plaza. Jasmine intercept last lens deliberate low. Heading work done Chuck simple. But interviews morn shows prime specials. All want your view Chuck decline. View matters those live reality day. Their voices not mine fill spaces. Jasmine consider journalist ambition balance ethic grasp. Not usual media. Maybe should Chuck suggest mild. Afterthought Jasmine decisive. No. Right she glance for him. Redirect coverage spot community voices over celeb. More power story anyway. Much more Chuck agree. With final respect nod. Jasmine return gather purpose visible renew. Chuck watch go satisfaction look. Sometimes key victories quiet perspective shift. Priorities realign. Attention redirect belong. As walk from Pershing Square, Chuck Norris blend seamless human flow downtown Los Angeles. No mask need just man complete one mission contemplate next. Behind wall face East Plaza edge. Sketch begin outline new mural large ambitious usual. Though rough sketch central figure unmistakable. Solitary man stand authority vulnerability presence power posture. Silence eloquent speech. Message leave continue speak long post depart. Not spectacular clash but quiet power see scene. 3 weeks pass since Chuck Norris reveal Pershing Square. Media spot shift else but changes catalyze continue transform downtown Los Angeles quiet substantial ways. Morning sun stream windows LAP train facility officer Marissa Lee addressed 24 officers. Core question she explain, our approach creates safety all or mere order illusion. Back room. Sergeant Foster Captain Rivera observes session part new mandatory program community-centered engagement. New protocols vulnerable population interaction. Officer Lee show remarkable lead, Rivera comment. Her approach bridge accountability practicality. On-screen footage Voss confrontation Chuck play alongside Lee measured approach same day. Contrast stark undeniable. Notice body language, tone, positioning. Marissa highlight. One create distance defensiveness. Other build connection compliance. Both enforce same ordinance, but fund different outcomes. Veteran officer raise concerns officer safety. Marissa acknowledge present power statistic. Data show over 93% homeless encounters no weapons violent behavior, yet approach often default control tactics appropriate other 7%. Across town Pershing Square atmosphere subtle transform. Patrol officers greet unhoused names. Permits artists process efficient. New wash station provide dignity simple clean. Most visible change stretch east wall sketches complete mural. Depict Chuck Norris Charlie disguise stand two worlds. Uniform authority one side vibrant humanity street life other. Beneath simple quote. Strongest voice one no need shout. Sketch sat nearby work new canvas. Circumstances transform dramatic gallery now represent work. First exhibit sold out secure modest housing. Yet still paint square most days. Maintain connection community. Quite change month ago observe Jasmine settle beside without usual camera gear. Didn't recognize without live stream. Sketch smile. Jasmine hand tablet display first report newly established civilian oversight committee. Police citations down 64%, complaints reduced 78%, voluntary compliance increase 41%. Numbers tell stories too Jasmine note. Less dramatic your art perhaps but power own way. Conversation pause police cruiser pull up. Officer Voss out uniform but instant recognizable. Emerge approach mural study intent before walk direct toward sketch. Mr. Mendoza address formal. Wonder word. Officer Voss just Voss now correct. Or Jake prefer not current officer. Something shift man stand before humility previous absent. Been mandatory counseling. Voss continue visible difficult saw self footage. Really saw first time person becoming. Wasn't intend join force. Why tell this? Sketch ask direct. Because oh apology Voss reply no hesitate. Behavior unprofessional disrespectful fund wrong. Used authority weapon rather responsibility. After careful consider sketch nod. Acknowledgement matters. Beginning. That evening, sketch make promise call from new rent studio apartment. Chuck Norris came familiar voice. Carlos sketch reply. You ask keep update developments here. He detail change train programs oversight committees statistical improve. Voss unexpected apology. Chuck listen attentive ask occasional questions. Sound sustainable change Chuck observe. Build systems rather personalities. What give hope? Sketch agree. This not just one viral moment celeb intervention. Evolve something genuine roots. Following morning Sergeant Foster seeks sketch proposal. Department forms specialized unit focus community engagement vulnerable populations, combine enforcement social services community rep. Need someone lived experience help train officers. Foster explain. Someone articulate reality street life without flinch hard truths. Ask me work department after everything because everything, Foster correct. Real change require uncomfortable honest all sides. Consider sketch reply. One condition position need accessible others like. Not token role. But pathway multiple community voices influence policy training. Later day Jasmine shows sketch national news feature Los Angeles changing approach homelessness. Article quote Chief Williams acknowledge past failures commit measure improvements. Most significant. Feature extensive quotes sketch other homeless community members. Present perspectives expert testimony rather human interest color. Starting stick, Jasmine observe, move beyond initial spectacle something more substantive. Tourist approach sketch work. Excuse artist. Guide mention you paint this mural, won them. Yes extraordinary visitor say. May ask inspire. Sketch consider question gaze drift space where Chuck Norris reveal. Where invisibility transform undeniable presence. Inspire moment see being seen reply. Understand real change no come shout louder everyone else, but quiet power bear witness truth. As afternoon light shift across square, Officer Lee appear two rookies. They move through deliberate awareness, greet homeless individual's name, approach characterize respect rather suspicion. Lee pause beside sketch easel, notice nearly complete painting her interaction elderly homeless woman. Capture something important there. Not just interaction, but feeling behind. That's challenge sketch reply. Policies change words, training change actions, but hardest transform truly see each other. Lee nod thoughtful then turn rookies. This why presence matter more power, why listen matter more command. Remember every interaction sketch add final detail painting. Simple signature words witness beneath. Quiet acknowledgement power transform Pershing Square now ripple outward. Not loud power confrontation, but quieter, more profound power truly seen refuse look away uncomfortable truths. Power Chuck Norris demonstrate not through martial prowess celeb, but simple act step another reality open eyes heart. Echo silent strength continue resonate city, not dramatic declarations, but thousand small moments recognition gradually transform strangers neighbors statistics individuals power service. Up next, 2 more incredible stories wait you. Just click image want watch take there. If enjoy video make sure subscribe. Mean lot.